Welcome to tonight's show. Before we invite our guest on, I wanted to talk about something that I remember reading. If any of you out there have ever read Little House in the Prairie series, the very first book in the series, Little House in the Big Woods, it was one of my favorites. It was a book, the first one in the series that you start reading. I didn't know what to expect. I had never read this before, but we were reading it to our kids. And we were reading it back at the beginning of our homesteading journey. And I just felt like as I read about Ma and Pa Ingalls, the family who this book is all about, I read about Pa wandering through the woods, hunting for wild game, bringing it back to his homestead where he was growing things in the garden and Ma was milking the cows and the kids were doing the farm chores. It sounded like the life that we were working towards. A life more simple, back to basics. A life where you work hard with your hands in the dirt, you sweat outside in the sun. And then you bring that harvest in and you put it in the larder, and then all winter long you're enjoying these delicious warm meals, harvests from that year. Something simpler, back to basics, and I believe that's what most of us, you viewers at home and on the YouTube channel, listening in the podcast, are searching for, a life that's more back to basics. We live in this life where we're constantly on our cell phones, we're stuck in traffic, we're at work, and we want to get away from the noise and the hustle and bustle. A lot of times we want to get away from technology. And while we are striving for this more simple life, we can kind of go off the deep end where we have this homestead that is everything must be done with our own two hands. Some people like it that way. Others, as they continue down their homesteading journey, I find myself included, are looking to combine worlds. Worlds where they're working with their hands back to basics, but maybe they're improving things and systems on their homestead with the help of technology. We've done videos in the past on electric fences and little pieces of technology that we use on our phones to identify plants, apps that we use homesteading. And sometimes we get the negative comments of, man, that's why I'm homesteading. I want to get away from all that technology and I want to get away from the modern world. And I understand why. But I do think personally that homesteaders who want to succeed and get the most from their homestead would do well to take advantage of the modern technology that is out there and figure out how to apply it on the homestead. And this is nothing new. I remember reading through Little House in the Big Woods, a chapter called, of all things, The Wonderful Machine. This chapter was all about this machine that these men would travel around with that would help farmers thresh their wheat. The men who ran this machine would travel around and they would roll into town. And the author, Laura Ingalls, talks about one frosty morning, a machine came up the road. 4 horses were pulling it, and 2 men were on it. The horses hauled it up to the field where Pa and Uncle Henry and Grandpa and Mr. Peterson had stacked their wheat. So they pulled this machine, which you can see in the picture here on the front page, their wonderful machine, up into this field. And this machine, it's very interesting. If you look at the illustration here, you can see the machine was actually an 8 horsepower machine because 8 horses were hitched to it and made it go. And the horses would walk around in a circle, and there's a man sitting in the middle of this machine that's driving the horses in the circle. But those 8 horses running this engine of sorts, which was connected to this threshing machine, sped up the process of threshing your wheat so that Pa and his family members and his neighbors could have a mountain of wheat that was threshed so much quicker. We know how they felt about this machine. Although it was noisy, it probably wasn't as peaceful as just being out there in the field by yourself doing the threshing. It got it done much quicker. And the chapter called The Wonderful Machine kind of sums up their feelings on incorporating the modern technology that they had on their homestead and making the best use of it. And that's what we're going to talk about with our guest tonight. We're going to talk about ways that you can improve the efficiency of your homestead, ways that you can get more done in less time while still enjoying this back to basics life, enjoying simple living. So tonight's guest for this show, you may know him from his YouTube channel, the Farmer Brad YouTube channel. Farmer Brad is with us to talk automation and improving your homestead. We're going to talk about MacGyver-like know-how, how to apply it on your farm. Brad and his family moved from California along with 3 chickens. I love the idea of moving with 3 chickens. That's great. A cat and a dog to an 8-acre homestead in east central Indiana. He decided to utilize the barn and property, but needed to find ways to balance family, a 40-hour work week, and the farm with chickens, sheep, gardening, everything that we do on our homesteads. So this is where he decided to invent the Farmer Brad automatic chicken waterer, which we'll talk about tonight, to save time watering his chickens and to make some money to help offset feed costs while waiting for his hens to start laying. His videos, which you can check out at Farmer Brad on YouTube, help others utilize technology to help with farming and homesteading. So we're looking forward to this discussion. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Austin.
So let's dive into how we can automate our homesteads, what we can do to run a more efficient homestead. Brad, give us one example of a way that you've made life on your homestead run a little bit more efficiently.
So this first one, using a smart plug for your fence energizer. I don't know why it took me this long to figure that one out. Our property is surrounded by high tensile electric fence. The barn came with a solid state energizer, but I was like, I don't want to catch things on fire and I want to be able to use the poultry netting. So what I was able to do was switch it out for a low impedance energizer. The low impedance is more or less a pulse. And what's really good with the smart plug is that then you're able to turn it on or off anywhere on the farm in the world. Usually when you need to fix the fence, you're not near the energizer to shut it off. So you can fix it, you can shut it off to hop over the fence and then turn it back on so your animals don't get out. And so actually before I did the smart switch, sometimes I would listen for grass getting hit. Yep. And I'd try to grab it in between that gap. Yeah. In order to like move something real quick. So I'm glad that I've
and that gets old so fast, right, Brad? Because you're out there and something goes wrong. Your dog gets out and it's like, I got to walk all the way back to my barn. Yeah. You know, I find myself sometimes, this is one of the things, one of your ideas that I'm going to be doing this week. I'm going to go on Amazon and find this thing. Because I don't have this. But this week I was up in the field working and I had forgotten to turn off the fence and I had to walk all the way back to the barn and all the way back to where I was working. And when you hear that, okay, big deal. You had to walk to the barn one extra time. It's true, big deal, right? But picture that, again, the capacity that you have in a day. That's how much energy you have. That's how much time you have. If every day something goes wrong, something falls across a fence, you know, an animal winds up getting out, even just, you know what, I wasn't going to change paddocks today, but look, the sheep mowed the grass a little too much. I better move them. One less walk, you know, quarter mile back to the barn, eighth, whatever it is, a mile back to the barn, whatever the walk is, that's more energy you have for whatever's going to go wrong. Or more energy that you have to think of a better idea, right?
And most of your fences are uphill. You go downhill to the barn and have to go uphill.
It's awful. It's an app on your phone? Is that how those work?
Basically, there's lots of smart plugs on the market. Well, first of all, you need to have Wi-Fi beaming to your barn. I found a great access point for $75. So I just put an access point up on there, and it basically can cover almost all of our 8 acres with Wi-Fi.
That's incredible.
And so because of that, I was able to have this in the barn, and I plug in my Energizer. Now, actually, because a lot of devices can be connected with ifthisthenThat.com, you can actually tie it. You can also tie it with Google Voice.
No way.
So that way, I can have it set up to where if one of my children go into the barn and Google Voice is there, then they can say, "Hey Google, turn off the electric fence," and then it will turn it off for them, so that they don't have to like do anything else with that.
And that smart plug, it works good for electric fencing. Brad, have you ever seen the temperature controlled plugs?
Yeah. So I use those in my barn. They're the I think the temperature cube or block or something like that. Yeah, thermocube.
That's the one we use.
And they have different ones for different temperatures. And then also a lot of times with the heated elements, they have those built in to them so that you don't need to do the other plug. But sometimes I end up doing it anyways just to sort of safeguard.
Yeah. When we run heat lamps in the springtime, the morning is cold, but then it gets warmer. Thermocube is the one that we have. They're set to shut off at above freezing temperatures and turn on below freezing temperatures. Mm-hmm. So it saves you a little bit on your, what you're spending on electricity. Another smart plug. So we have the Wi-Fi controlled smart plugs, the temperature controlled smart plugs. Great way to improve systems on your homestead. Save you a little bit of time, money, energy, so that you can take time, money, and energy and put it to something else that's going to break.
The chicken waters, the mother of all chicken waters.
Yeah.
This is my winter setup. And it's going to be a little tricky this year because I probably have I'm probably pushing about 30 layers.
So for those who are, maybe they don't have chickens yet, maybe they're planning on chickens, right? One of the biggest, most annoying things about having winter animals, which is why Brad and myself like raising meat animals, because you don't have to worry about the winter. But my son loves his egg-laying chickens, and then now we have dairy animals, so we're tied to the homestead 24/7, 365. Water's going to be freezing in the barn.
What I did was in my barn, I converted a old corn crib into like 2 chicken coop areas, and in there I have I forget what they are, 250 to 300 gallon IBC totes. In that IBC tote that holds the water, I have a heated element, 1500 watt heated element that heats up that water. And then I have a pump that will pump 1,000 gallons per hour through 1.5 PVC pipe. And then it goes down, and then there's water nipples on there that the chickens are able to drink from. And the combination of it being heated and always moving keeps it from freezing.
I like this system, Brad. It sounds like there's a couple of fail safes. So one thing, if you don't know this about water, moving water doesn't freeze. So I have seen homesteaders who set up cycles where the water continually moves on a cycle with no heating element, and those things usually work as long as the water keeps moving. So Brad, this mother of all waterers, the first thing it has this pump. You leave this pump running all the time?
Yes, and 250 to 300 gallons of water. I'm able to fill it up, and it lasts most of winter.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's great. We saw a quick glimpse of it, and obviously, more importantly, if you guys are watching and you want to see more of that one, go check out Farmer Brad's channel. There's everything we're talking about today, Brad. Everything they can see on your channel, right? So.
Yep.
All right. So we'll get on. They can go explore more about the mother of all waters. Now this is a great solution for wintertime. But it's a big thing if you were going to set up something like that. Let's talk about your waterers that you've built, the different ones you've built that you use in the summer throughout the homestead. Okay,
so I happen to have one here with me. This is the automatic chicken water bucket.
Is it unboxing time, Farmer Brad?
Sure. All right. I think my daughters put those subscribe to my YouTube channel stickers on the
I loved it. That's every time I see stuff like that, I just think good marketing. The minute I saw that, I was like, I need some Homesteady stickers. Not that I send boxes out, but son, I totally forgot my knife. Can you grab me a knife from the kitchen?
Too bad I can't hand it to you.
Right there. So, Bubba, if you could go grab me a knife from the kitchen, and we'll do it. We'll start our unboxing here. So Farmer Brad was kind enough to send us the one that you're holding there, Brad. We have the same one in the box here.
Yes.
Oh my! What are we gonna do? Be careful not to puncture the. Ready to unbox with this sword that my son brought me.
You're gonna fillet the bucket.
I sure hope not. All right, so I'm gonna start opening this up, Brad. Tell us as I unbox my my Farmer Brad water here what we're looking at.
So yeah, initially when I came up with it, I looked on Amazon, and a lot of the solutions out there were 5-gallon buckets, and I was like, there has to be a better way, because if it refills, then it doesn't need to be a 5-gallon bucket.
So there we have our Farmer Brad water. Not the first Farmer Brad water we've had on our homestead, but this one is the newest one, and I can see we got some changes to it. This little feed hose is new. So tell me, Brad, talk about this design. What do we got here? And those of you who are watching at home as we go through this, Brad has done many build videos on his channel. He shares his information, how he puts these things together. So if you're a DIY kind of guy, just take a look at this great design. You can come up with something yourself similar to it. And if you're like me and you are DIWHY, like why, then just get one from Farmer Brad.
and I do offer do-it-yourself kits. Like if you have a larger container that you want to put the water nipples on and the float valve and stuff, then you can go ahead and do that.
Oh, that's cool.
But so this tubing is reverse osmosis tubing that a lot of people have underneath their kitchen sink. And the thing I like about it is the quick connects. So instead of having to be committed or stuck with one setup, if you need to set up 2 of them, all you have to do is just take this piece off, put a splitter, and then you can extend it. So like here it bites on, and then I push that little lip.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I've had practice.
Look at that. That's great. So now you can set something up with multiples. Now to put it back on, what do? Just push?
Oh, you just push it on and it stays.
That's great. Wow.
And the other nice thing too is like hardwire cloth. You just take this off, poke it through the hardwire cloth, put it back on, and you don't need to cut any holes.
So if you're putting this in like a chicken tractor or something.
Yeah. The first version had the water nipples that were on the bottom. But one issue with that is you couldn't put it on like a cinder block, or so you can hang it, or you put it on a cinder block with this kind, and then they peck at it. The other benefit with having the side water nipples is it takes less vertical space. So if you have a smaller chicken run or a chicken coop, you don't have to worry about getting it to fit, like having a lot of vertical space, because they have to be all the way underneath here and peck up at those, where here it can be more or less like eye level, and then they're pecking at it.
I love that you moved these, because our old version we had the bottom nipples, and anytime there's bottom nipples on a bucket, what inevitably, you got kids, Brad, you say, hey guys, fill up the chicken water. So they go over to the faucet and they start, and I know my son, he's going to be yelling at me over here, no, I don't do that anymore. He's old enough now to know better, but the younger ones would take it and they'd throw the bucket down, and there go those nipples, and now you got to replace them, or they would crack the buckets. I've seen them in the past crack the buckets. These on the side are so much nicer. You can put the bucket down, fill it up, no worries.
So part of that also came about is using this during the wintertime. Now during the wintertime, you can open this up and feed an electric cord to a heated element inside to keep it warm.
That's good thinking.
And so during the wintertime, if like I do have a few 3.5 gallon versions of this that are left, and that kind of gets a little heavy to lift. So if you're having to lug it to your water source in the wintertime, with having the side water nipples, you can sit it on the ground and it doesn't leak out.
Yeah, that's perfect.
The other thing I've done too is I put like a funnel in here, and then all I have to do is just pour the water in there during the wintertime.
Gotcha. Now let's talk about what people see on the inside here, Brad. This little, and my son can pull up, if you could, Bubba, pull the overhead shot so they can see. Explain, what is this little piece of technology sitting inside the bucket? What's that doing?
It's a float valve, similar to the back of your toilet. It refills. And what's nice about a few of them, so yours might not have the screw. Like this one I'm able to adjust the height. This one I can just adjust like that. So I can have it be a lot of water or very little.
You just move it? You just kind of push it?
Yeah. Yeah, you just hold one side and then you just move it up or down.
Oh, yeah,
So
there we go.
the thinking with that is like during the summer, you may want to put the water lower so it's refreshing a lot quicker, more
Okay.
often, so that it can keep the water cooler. And then let's say you're going away for the weekend, then you could put this all the way up. That way, if your water system has any issues, they'll have as much water in here as possible.
Awesome. So float valve connected to our tubing here. We got a nice hard elbow there so it doesn't get worn out and flexed and bent too much.
And then this hooks up to your garden hose. And this part was difficult to find. There's really only one place that I found that has it. And one benefit by you purchasing the buckets from me is that I'm able to get the price point down.
Oh, yeah.
By buying 50 to 100 items at once in order to build it out. Because some of these end up being pretty expensive if you were just to buy one. The other nice thing is this reverse osmosis tubing is pretty cheap. And so if you need to extend or daisy chain a whole bunch of things, Amazon has tons of adapters on there. Like they have shutoff valves. So if you are in a situation where you need to disconnect it often,
nice.
You can just do a shutoff valve, disconnect it, do what you need to do, and then connect it back.
So you can kind of customize your system. Let's talk about that idea of daisy chaining. What is a daisy chain? I saw you just finished up a big project on this.
I don't have any of those splitters with me because I use them all out in the field. So on the John Siskovich chicken tractor, on the back, I put this little ledge that I mounted a 15-gallon container that ends up being a water storage container. So then in each of the chicken tractors, I have 2 chicken water buckets. These I made 3.5-gallon chicken water buckets. Pretty much my process for doing the chores is I drive my lawnmower, a zero-turn radius mower that has a 25-gallon water tank on the back. So I pull it up to the chicken tractors. Then I hook up my water tank to start filling up that 15-gallon tank. And so that starts filling that up. And then the idea is that by that time, the water tank should be pretty close to being full.
Why does this make life easier to daisy chain this system?
Less strain on your back, because before I did this, I had like the 7-gallon Miller red ones they keep the water in them by a vacuum. So you have to like open up the chicken tractor, lean over, grab those. And if they still are like half full, they're still pretty heavy. That can be bad. The other thing too is by filling up that water tank, I know that all of the rest are full.
This is the first half of an interview we did live with Farmer Brad with the Homesteady Pioneers. If you would like to join us for these interviews live or see the entire extended version of this interview, an hour in length, become a Homesteady Pioneer by clicking here. You'll gain access to this interview, all our past interviews, extended versions, and you'll be able to join us live for all our new interviews. Stay tuned, part B of the YouTube version will be coming out soon.